Okay, there's a lot going on. Something just like peed on me. As you can see, it's yellow. Then I heard a jet. Now I hear something really loud that sounds like a helicopter. But like I didn't see any birds or bees over me. So I'm like, did a plane just like drop oil on me? Like, what just happened? Okay, the windows are vibrating. What is about to appear? I'm scared. I'm shook. I'm real shook. But my jaw is dropped. I was not expecting. I wasn't expecting that to be so low. Vlog. There's no real theme to this vlog. We're still reading my book club pick, but let's look at the weekly quote. Be comforted, dear soul, there's always light behind the clouds by Louisa May Alcott. This calendar loves her. I do own Little Women, but I haven't read it yet. I don't know if that's what this is from, but yes, this is so true. If you are going through a rough time, I swear to you, I absolutely promise to you that it will get better. I look back at times when I was a teenager and I was really depressed. I got through it. I got through some of my lowest of lows, and sometimes I look back and I'm like, wow, people were really bad to me. I was really bad to myself with my inner thoughts and everything, but it does get better. Let me tell y'all, if you are in a rut, you will get out of it. You may be like, no, that's not true. It is absolutely true. Let me tell y'all. It's possible. Let's look at the weekly TBR. First, we had the anthology that I am reading in the morning, and that is Dawnland Voices, an anthology of Indigenous writing from New England, and this is from Nebraska, University of Nebraska Press. This has given voice to some writers from the New England area of Indigenous origins, because a lot of times when you go into a bookstore, you go to the Indigenous American section, it's all about people from the plains and the Southwest, but there are Indigenous people in New England, and this is given voice to those people. Next, we have the book that is the main focus of the vlog, and that is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I'm 75% in. I'm bad and need to update Fable because I have taken notes the past 2 days and haven't uploaded them. Last week, it was one of my busiest weeks of the year. I didn't have time to be on my phone and all that. I didn't have a lot of time to read yesterday, but I did read, even if it was only 39 pages. But what is this about? This is about two families, the Trask family and the Hamilton family. They are in the state of California and the Salinas Valley. Turn into the 20th century, just following these two families, multi-generational family saga, and it is a classic. We're focusing on reading classics in April. Next, we have my mood read, which is While You Sleep by Stephanie Merritt. We have our main character, who is Zoe, who is a painter from the United States, but she had some problems with her personal life. She wanted to get away for a little while and has gone to Scotland. She is staying at, kind of an Airbnb that is an old Scottish estate, that there are rumors that this estate is haunted. It's a horror book. It's a ghost story. Hitchcockian vibes is what it says. I don't know if that's true or not, but taking place in Scotland, and yeah, ghost Scotland. This is creepy. It got creepy last night. Last, another kind of Scottish read is my ebook pick. That is Go Tell the Bees, and I'm going by Diana Gabaldon. This is the 9th and most recent book in the Outlander series. This has followed a family during the American Revolution with some time travel elements involved, and those are the books that I am currently reading. Guys, it is raining so hard back there, but we are doing my nightly update for East of Eden. I got to 87%, so I read 13% today, which was 75 pages read. I do think it is possible that I could finish this tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, then on Wednesday. But we are going to go through my notes here. I don't have that many notes because, again, I've told y'all this is just an average read for me. If I was like, the average books are always hardest to review in my opinion. Yeah, because like a great book is also really hard to review because it's just like, I love it here, you need to read it. And then an awful book is like just me ranting. That's why I think average books are so hard to review, but we will try my best. In chapter 40, something that I do really like about this book, that this book, it does have a villain who we all know is supposed to be the villain. And Steinbeck knows how to write a villain. So many authors I read make these books, write these books. They have a villain for the sake of having a villain. They don't give a backstory to the villain of, oh my gosh, that lightning back there. But they're a villain. You're not just born a villain, in my opinion. And that's something, that's another theme in here on what makes a monster. If you're born a monster, or if it happens somewhere along the way. I think it happens somewhere along the way. But it's a very confusing thing to think about because sometimes I'm like, oh, what if it is something in your brain chemistry? But for the most part, I think it develops along the way of how you're raised, how you're treated, that kind of thing. Your atmosphere around you makes you who you are as a person. So we do have a villain. One thing about the villain is that she is very human. It's like, yes, this person is a monster, but she is still a human. And I do think that's really fascinating, and I really like that about this book, that it's gone there. And then we have chapter 42 that was just basically about World War I and what was happening when the book is happening. And there was all this stuff, talk about trade. It's like, the trade couldn't get that bad. They cannot possibly sink our ships. And I'm like, right now, the economy. Next, chapter 44. Yeah, Abra is, I guess that's how you say it, Abra is one of our female characters, and she's come of age, and it's like, she's fine breasted. I'm like, of course, this is the second time I think that is mentioned, her breast. I'm like, of course we needed to know that, of course. Men, male writers of a certain time. But I think that's probably, you can probably see it in modern day too. But yeah, we get introduced to a character called Joe. I think he's going to be bad news. Just, I feel like he's either going to want to please somebody and do bad stuff to do that, or he's just going to be a bad guy. We will have to see. Then another big theme here is morals. What makes you a good person? What makes you a bad person? What is good? What is bad? Those are some of the big themes in Hey guys, happy Tuesday. I got to the halfway point in Dawnland Voices, and this is 3-star vibes. Yes, I would recommend it. I do think this is a very important collection to give these people voices. But like most anthologies, it takes a lot for me to love an anthology, because there might be some sections that are really good, and then there's going to be some that aren't so good, because there are some that more like nonfiction sections that just read like Wikipedia articles, very dry, and I'm not invested. But the poetry in here is the standout. Like, when I do my review, I will make a list of which authors stood out to me and who I want to check out more of their work and everything, because the poetry is so good. New England writers always do a great job at nature writing. New England's my dream vacation in the United States. I've talked about that before. Hawaii or New England, I'm choosing New England. Like, I have been to Boston, and that's like as far as I've been up there. But I want to go to Vermont. I want to go to New Hampshire, Maine, all of that. Even I want to go up, into Canada as well. Not right now. I don't want to cross the border, but I would love to go there, and this is just like confirming that even more. If you like Outlander, because there are some Native American plot lines, especially with what I'm reading right now, you might be familiar with some of this, because some of this I had only heard of these peoples or customs from Outlander, which is by Dana Gabaldon, who's not from New England or anything like that. But that's the great thing about historical fiction. It can open your eyes to other topics, and then you can go like read from actual indigenous writers from that area and be like, oh, so this is what it's really like, rather than being fiction. But there is fiction in here as well. This is just a big mix of fiction, nonfiction, just any kind of writing that an indigenous person from New England could have done. Yeah, New England, that's like northeastern New England. But yes, I would really recommend this because I do think these stories are important and this collection is important, and I am learning a lot. There's even a section that Abnaki is where I am now had the words, because their language, their spoken language, is not that different from English. Like an English speaker should be able to pronounce those words by how they're structured and everything. It would have like, I wish I could find what page it was on. I took a picture of it, but I don't want to pull out the phone right now. Just with the words next to, okay, that's Penobscot, so this way. And I think that's so important, because if the words are that close to English, you have like no excuse for, yeah, so these, no, that's not it. You have no excuse of not at least trying, and I had a lot of fun, and that is what is so great, to just explore new cultures, to, yeah, here's the section. So like, Montreal is Molian, and then it says how to say a Montrealer, Montrealers, the plural, and all of that. And it just goes all through all these different words. Like Odana means a city, town, or village. Just a lot of fun learning and everything. I've talked about it before. Learning is one of the reasons why I read, and I want to encourage a love for learning to the people who watch my videos. Hey guys, yeah, we have taught today. I just finished East of Eden, all 601 pages. We are going to go through Call Pal, discussing this book together. I wish there was like somewhere I could put it. I know sometimes I want to just clean this little area and pull the modem out so I could like sit. Oh my gosh, I wish y'all could see Fred right now. Here's the phone so I can take a picture of this man. He's just laying on his back, looking at me with his belly out. Ignore my feet and the carpet, but that is Fred right now. So we are going to go through Call Pal, seeing what my rating of this book is going to end up being. Okay, so we're starting with characters. Characters, we do blue. I'm going to give the characters a 3. Like the ideas of these characters and everything, but I never felt emotionally connected to them because we are not really immersed into their stories, immersed into the characters. I wish there was more like inner thoughts and everything to understand why they are doing what they're doing rather than just seeing it, because we're like, okay, they obviously had a rough childhood and that makes them who they are as adults. I wish we were told more, which is usually showing, not telling, telling, we're just showing. No, I always get that confused, but I wish there was more like inner dialogue. I think one of the reasons I feel like that is we are really just being told this story rather than being immersed in the story, being put into the character's shoes. I don't think we're put into their shoes. But I did really like the villain work in this, because back to what we were saying yesterday, how there is a villain, but the villain is also a human. All these characters are incredibly human. They all had their flaws. They all had their imperfections. Everything they do makes sense of why they do it, but I just do wish there was more of that internal dialogue. For atmosphere, we are going to give it a 4. The atmosphere is fantastic. Now, as I said, we were not really immersed into our characters, but we're really immersed into this setting. Steinbeck does a great job at setting the scene, doing that world building and really invoking the senses, and his use of color is really good. I know that seems so weird to say for like a novel that doesn't have any pictures or anything, but the use of color in here was fantastic, and I love this era of like California history. California history is incredibly fascinating. We can go all the way back to like the La Brea tar pits back in like Neolithic times with people. That slice of land, incredibly fascinating history. Writing, we are going to go with a 3 as well, because I do think this is a well-written book. This writing style is very intelligent. It is just a lot to take in. You're going to get every single small detail, and it's a lot. It can be dense, at times, and it's going to be a little hard for you to get, maybe not you personally, but it's going to be hard for some readers to get into. Also, the pacing did feel like a roller coaster because sometimes the pacing was really good and other times it dragged and just felt like it went on too long. Now let's go into the plot, which plot I am going to give a 4. I do think this is overall a great story of history and really just opening my eyes to that time period of basically the Civil War until like World War I. That's a time period that I feel like isn't really talked about that much in American history. And I did learn a lot, and it just really shows how everything is connected and how that made our country to what it is today. Also, there were just great themes of what makes us who we are. Is it how we're raised? Are we just born the way that we are? Is it the people around us? And what makes a monster? Those were some great themes. The themes of morals, of what is right, what is wrong, and is there context to what is right and what is wrong. That was all really thought-provoking and reflective pieces. Again, so much intelligence in this book. Intrigue. Intrigue is an interesting one. We're going to go with a 3 as well because, again, since I was lacking that connection to the characters, I didn't really care what would happen to them, but I did want to know where this story would go and what would end up actually happening, like how this story would all wrap up. Now, logic, yeah, I think everything makes sense, so I want to do it as a 4, not a 5 for that. And enjoyment, I am going to give that a 3 because this felt like a 3-star book overall. So where did I put my phone after I took the picture for it? Okay, it's over here. It blends in with that blanket. And we are going to do the math right here to see where this ends up. When I was about like a quarter of the way into the book last week, it was a 3.3. We will see how much that has changed. So 3 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 3 is 24. We're going to divide that by 7, and this is a 3.42 star. Actually, we can round that up to a 3.43. So about a 3.5, and I am not going to unhaul this book because that is a 4-star on Goodreads, but also I do think I would have enjoyed it more if I did do it via audiobook because, as I said, this does get dense at times and a lot to take in. I just think if I had that extra, reading in tandem with an audiobook, hearing those words spoken, I think I would have an easier time following what was happening. But a 3.5, so this is definitely a book that I would recommend you pick up. It is a good book. The characters, I do wish we had more inner thoughts with the characters. The atmosphere is fantastic, very invokes colors. Writing is intelligent, but it's dense and is a lot to take in. The plot, fantastic. I mean, it's one of my favorite tropes is that multi-generational family saga, and then just those themes of like dissecting identity and what makes us who we are as people. And yeah, so it was a good book and I would recommend that you pick it up. And happy Wednesday. I just got done doing my live stream for the day. I need to back up a little bit. But we will be starting a new book today, and it's actually not the book that I thought I would be starting because this one is actually longer than the other one because they both have like a notes section, index, appendixes, bibliography, all of that kind of stuff. So that will add to a page number. But for like the physical story itself, this is the second longest book after East of Eden on my TBR this month, and that is the Iliad by Homer. This is probably the most intimidating one on my TBR this month because it is so ancient that I'm really scared for the translation and everything. I have read Penguin translations in the past and have enjoyed them. I'm not going to say I don't have anything to be scared about, but I am scared. I'm scared. So this is about the Trojan War and the story of Achilles. I am pretty sure it's about Achilles, but Achilles is this guy who is struggling with being immortal, being a human, because I do think he is descended from like Hercules is what they say, like he's descended from the gods and he wants to have that immortal status, but he is only a man. Now, I talked about in my TBR video, I do think he has hit that status because his story is still being told thousands of years later. I think that's being pretty much immortal, that everybody knows who you are. There's even a tendon in our legs named after him. So we will be starting this like epic poem today. I don't think I've read anything like this before on the channel. And here's the translation stuff. So it's originally translated by Evie Review, R-I-E-U, revised and updated by Peter Jones with DCH, again that R last name, edited with an introduction and notes by Peter Jones. Again, this is the Penguin Classics version. I don't know if it will focus on that or not, but Penguin Classics, I have mine in the cloth-bound copy because when I first saw on BookTube, these were the kind to get. They are $25, so I mean not that different from a hardback book, but this is what we will be starting today, the Iliad. I just opened Goodreads, therefore again a description of the book for y'all, so I'm going to read that since, you know, my copy doesn't have a description on it. The Iliad is the first and greatest literary achievement of Greek civilization, an epic poem without rival in the literature of the world and the cornerstone of Western culture. The story centers on the critical events in the last year of the Trojan War, which led to Achilles' killing of Hector and determined the fate of Troy. But Homer's theme is not simply war or heroism. With compassion and humanity, he presents a universal and tragic view of the world, of human life lived under the shadow of suffering and death, set against a vast and largely unpitying divine background. 7 Greek cities claim the honor of being the birthplace of Homer, circa 8th to 7th century BC. The poet to whom the composition of the Iliad, there's no space, so Iliad and Odyssey are attributed. The Iliad is the oldest surviving work of Western literature, but the identity or even the existence of Homer himself is a complete mystery. That's crazy, with no reliable biographical information having survived. And as I am a book channel, somebody who loves literature, I think it's very important that I read like the first work of literature in the West. And I mean from all over, you know, but it is such a cornerstone. Y'all, I am so sleepy, but I got to page 45 in the Iliad because in my first reading sprints or time of the day, it was all like this stuff that I read pretty much the whole introduction. I read the foreword because this is a 1988 translation, and that was actually interesting of they're basing this off a translation that the translator's father did in 1955, which would have been the Penguin version back then. But obviously, as time goes on, just phrases and dialects are all evolving. And they were like, for an audience in the 1980s, this will be easier for them to understand than an audience in the 1950s. Now, surely it's probably not too big of a difference, but that is how translations work, and I thought that was interesting. Then we had the introduction, and again, I read the majority of it, but then I was like, okay, we're getting to a point where I know a lot of this. One, the first part was all an outline of the plot of the Iliad, which pretty much knew all of that from, again, the movie Troy, and then reading books like Circe, reading The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. Just, you know, mythological retellings are extremely popular in around the last 10 years. Did Percy Jackson inspire that? I don't know. I read the first 2 Percy Jackson books back, like, again, like middle school age. I don't know exactly what year that was, but is that what made it popular? I don't know. But we have a lot of just different, the outline, the focus of the Iliad, the central themes of the Iliad, the gods, and this is, it seems like Homer was the first. So it says that Homer gave the Greeks their divinities. His point was that from time immemorial, gods had been worshipped through ritual as faceless powers representing almost any aspect of human existence, but he personified them really by giving them, you know, those personalities and traits and qualities. We have the poetry and history, like, was the Trojan War real? I personally do think I do think it happened. And we have some technicalities of oral poetry because this is coming from the Bronze Age, and that this was way too long to have been an oral poet. I think it's 443 or 45 pages when I just looked. That would be way too long. So I think that Homer, when this was first being written, that it was like 3 separate things that was all put together. Now, book 10 in this, apparently vast majority of, intellectual scholars or whatever believe that book 10 was not written by Homer, and it's just completely different from anything else. We will see in the coming days if I agree with that sentiment. And then there's speech, action, character, battles, similes, and then the authenticity of survival of Homer's text, which is really interesting. Some people don't even know if Homer actually existed, and then just the book 10 part that I told you about. So there was a lot of interesting stuff that I did learn in the introduction. So I didn't read the 1950s edition introduction because that's not the translation that I'm reading. So I didn't really see a point in reading that. That goes on a little while. Then we have notes of the revision. I skimmed it, and a lot of it just didn't seem like anything that I would need, but I did keep tab of the main characters, just our list of our Greeks, the Trojans and allies of Troy, the gods. So the gods are always going to be in all caps when other beings, I guess like demigods and all, are italicized. And then we have further reading. We had some maps. So there was a lot of that. And that took me all my first reading hour to get through all of that. Then we had the Iliad itself. I read the first 2 books, which again was 45 pages. And we will go into my notes on those now. I'm currently at 10% of the way into the book. And we have that introduction at the start to, set a scene. And movies don't really do this that much anymore. But movies like Star Wars is the main one you're going to think about that has all the words going down. But a lot of those historical movies will have that kind of setting the scene of where you are. Like, for example, with the Iliad, the Greek army is led by Agamemnon. It is besieging Ilium, a town in the region of Troy, whose ruler is Priam. It is the 10th year of the war. To satisfy their desire for booty, the Greeks carry out raids on local towns. Human captives are especially prized. They are kept as slaves or sold for ransom. After one raid, the young girl, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing these wrong, Chryses is selected as an appropriate prize for Agamemnon. But Chryses is the daughter of Chryses, a local priest of Apollo. That just really, those scenes at the start really set the scene for what you're about to go into. Now, the gods in this are kind of confusing because in the movie Troy, I don't think we really had a lot of the gods. I don't know if there was a scene with Achilles and his mom, or if it's from the Silence of the Girls book that I'm envisioning. I had this image of Achilles going to his mom and talking to her. Again, I don't remember if it's from a movie or just from my readings of books that it's in my head, but there is, so with the gods, I'm like, can people see them? Can they not? Because there's one scene with Athene, who I don't know if that's Athena, but she disguises herself as a herald. So I'm like, is she possessing somebody already there and putting words out? And there were just some scenes, again with Athene, where it was like only Achilles could see her. I don't understand. I don't know how to picture the gods. I don't know if they look like humans, but are just, these immortal beings. That part is kind of confusing me and all of that, because in like the retellings I've read, there hasn't been those elements that are here in the original. And there's repetitive phrases. It'll be like, so she spoke or so he spoke, and then goes into it. And going into book 2 now with the titles, it only has to be like Agamemnon, son of Aretus, or godlike Achilles, godlike Odysseus. You're going to get those titles every time. And I'm like, we get it. At 45 pages in, we know who Achilles is. We know who Odysseus is. And with Odysseus, like, Sean Bean was perfect casting for Odysseus in Troy. Some of this just reads so much like Sean Bean. And I don't know if it's because I've already seen the movie, but just like these monologues and all very much remind me of him. And I can definitely hear them in his voice. And he is my Odysseus. But I mean, who knows? Is Matt Damon playing Odysseus next? But right now, it's Sean Bean is my Odysseus. And then some of the descriptions, again, are being repetitive. Like, Zeus came to Agamemnon in a dream, and it was about saying, like, long-haired Greeks. So every time the Greeks are described, now it's long-haired Greeks. And I'm like, okay, we get it. Long hair. And there was one whole section in book 2 where it was just saying, like, This one, Cephallenia, Odysseus is in charge of those troops. He's leading those troops. They come from these places, and it just went on and on. I guess like all the Greek city-states of saying like Athens, this is who's in charge of the Athens group. These are where they came from. This is what they're known for. Just again, so many city-states, so many lists. And I was like, okay, we get it. They cannot expect us to remember all of that moving forward. So what is the point of having it? You know, me critiquing a book that is the oldest book in Western civilization. So those are my notes for today on the Iliad by Homer. I'm here to give y'all an update on While You Sleep because I am now at the 80% mark, got to over 75%. Now for characters. I'm not a huge fan of Zoe, but if you like unreliable narrators, which that is something that is intriguing about this book, where I think this might be an unreliable narrator. Obviously, we just have to see how it all wraps up to see if that was really the case after all. But I don't feel any strong feelings towards the characters whatsoever. Charles would definitely be my favorite one, but there's characters like Anna, I'm maybe pronouncing that wrong. Like, our main character is in her mid to late 40s and is having beef with Anog, who is a like 16-year-old girl. I don't like that. Atmosphere, yeah, we're gonna say a 5 for the atmosphere. I definitely love this Scottish setting, this haunted mansion, if you will. We don't know if it's haunted or not, but it really reminds me of the house in the movie Casper. That is what the setting is really reminiscent of. But if you like Ruth Ware and Charlotte McConaughey, I kind of get those vibes from this book. Ruth Ware because of just like the mystery, we're in the British Isles, that kind of thing. And then Charlotte McConaughey, it's just that same kind of atmosphere, being somewhere cold in the far north. I know her most recent book is in the far south, but I'm thinking of Migrations. And she does have a book that takes place in Scotland, so that's interesting. No, you don't need to go under the bed. You don't need to go under there because he likes to be bad when he goes under the bed. He chews on stuff. But writing is the biggest issue here. We're giving the writing a 2-star. There was one paragraph that went on for 3 pages, more like 2.5 pages. There's no rhyme or reason why a paragraph has to be that long. And as I was talking about like Anog, who is like a villain kind of in this book, things are just very like overt. They're very in your face, like the author, no, don't go under there, Fred. His claw's going in my feet. But it's very like in your face, like the author doesn't trust us and has to like put things like in your face. Some things in this book are just so obvious, and yeah, just I think that's a lot of obvious. And you know when things are like too easy for characters, when it's like they were just talking about this and then it happens and I'm like, yeah, just things just being too easy for them. But yeah, plot, I would give the plot a 4. Definitely really intriguing. Really want to see where this goes, like ghosts, demons in Scotland, that kind of thing, and a lot of just history that goes into it. It's really interesting. Yeah, so I am liking this book, but the writing style just really like I am skimming because again, there's no purpose for a paragraph to be 2.5 pages long of adding nothing to the story. Like I don't want to read that. That is personally too much for me, and I don't want to go through that. But those are my thoughts so far on While You Sleep. But Edward, one of our characters, I'm getting bad vibes from him. Like I think he's behind some of the stuff in here. But with like ghost stories, paranormal stories, it's really interesting just to see how that wraps up. I'm saying everything's interesting, but it is. Sorry for getting unhinged right there. But yeah, how is it going to wrap up when you have paranormal beings? Possibly, we don't know if we do or not. And on these mysteries, again, I'm at like 82 or 83% of the way. Hopefully the author can wrap all of that stuff up. Hey guys, happy Thursday. So to say, I do have a pimple patch right there because I don't want people to be like, you had something above your lip. I know, I put it there myself. But we are going to talk about the Iliad. I read 83 pages today. So I got to 28%, and I want to just go over my thoughts and everything. So I think this will take me a little, I'm going to say about 8 days to read this book. but we will just have to see how that goes. I'm in no rush really, but let's look at the notes here. I think it'll be best if I keep it up there. So I did do just a general of everything that happened in what I read yesterday. I just heard a little paragraph because sometimes for classics and books that are, I wouldn't say this book is dense, but just to have an understanding of what is going on, I will just write myself a little synopsis of what I had read the day before. Today was basically just battle and war. There were some scenes with like Helen and Aphrodite, but the majority of what I read was just battling and violence, that kind of thing. That's something on my letterbox last year. My most genre that I watched the most of was war movies, but I'm somebody who, when I watch these movies, like, I do not care for the battle scenes. Like, they'll be playing and I'm most likely looking at my phone, but even if I am watching, like, they don't really do anything for me, and that's the majority of what, like, 20% of this book today was just battle, and that doesn't really do anything for me. About the disguising thing yesterday, so I do think that means possessing, because we had a scene on the end of page 48, which I do remember, but if I hadn't. It's, meanwhile, Iris, the messenger goddess, brought the news to white-armed Helen, disguising herself as Helen's sister-in-law. So I think that is what's happening, is that the gods, they go in and possess that person temporarily and get the point across that they want to get across. I did want to make note of that. And then I was like, I need to write down Menelaus, Agamemnon, Achilles, and Helen, and what all their connections are. So Menelaus he's a Greek. All these people were Greeks. He is the king of Sparta and the brother of Agamemnon, and then he was the husband of Helen. Paris took Helen away to Troy. Now, Agamemnon, he's Greek, and he's the leader of this whole expedition. Then we have Achilles, who is Greek, and he is leader of the Meridians, I guess is how you say that. I could be wrong. And then Helen is the daughter of Zeus. She is married to Menelaus, and then is from Sparta. My next note, we have, as I told you, we have all these battles going on, and Zeus is like, we need to put an end to this. But goddesses like Hera and Athene, they don't want to do that. And I was just kind of shocked that Zeus was the one wanting to put an end to it, because I picture him just being so violent from the Greek mythology I've been reading this year. Y'all know I've been reading that big National Geographic book where if I don't hit 100 pages read in a day, I will go read about a Greek god or goddess in there, and they do have heroes towards the end of the book. But Zeus just doesn't seem like a nice guy, and I mean, still, just wanting to put an end to a war doesn't necessarily make you a nice or good person, but I didn't really expect that from him. And I'm like, a war between humans is probably like entertainment to the gods, them just watching all of this go down, but I'm like, are they even watching from above? Again, the god stuff is all really confusing to me. And I'm like, why do the gods support certain groups? Because Athens is named after her, is supporting the Greeks. And we have like Apollo and Aphrodite support the Trojans. And I'm like, why are these gods supporting the groups of people that they are? Like, as I said, I did not expect all this content of gods. I thought this was going to be like Achilles, Patroclus, Odysseus, Helen, all of these more human characters, even if they are children of gods. That's more what I expected. But I did not expect Zeus and Athene and Hera to all play such big parts, and that really makes me be like, that is why people doubt if the Trojan War even existed, because there's all these mythological figures that, I mean, I don't want to say they're not real, because I do know some people are still pagans and believe all this. And I do have Circe back there, but like, I can see why people, because, people would be like, the gods aren't real, then why should I believe this book is real, kind of thing. So yes, I do definitely understand where that comes from and why people might question the legitimacy of the Trojan War itself. And another thing with this, does free will exist? As I talked about the gods coming in and possessing people, and then we have Athene and Apollo. They plan this duel between these two people. And it really makes you think, is that one of the themes here? That do you have free will, or are the gods, or, you know, God controlling you? This is a general note. Tartarus is the deepest chasm, because Zeus was like, if any of y'all are gonna keep messing with the Greeks and Trojans, you're going to get lashed, and I am going to send you to this place that is the deepest chasms, so deep in the earth, even below Hades. And I am really curious to see where people think that was. And yeah, so I was intrigued by that. So those are my thoughts on the Iliad so far. It's like a high 2-star. It's not doing a whole lot for me, but I don't think it's bad either. Now let's go into the weekly wrap up. I've read over 100 pages every day this week. I have not hauled a book, but I did buy a book on eBay, so that will be included probably whenever I get it. It's when I will write it in here, because they offered me 40% off, and if it's over 25% off, then yeah, I will buy it. It's just like a mass market historical romance. It's Roman inspired, like, give me. I did want to go through telling y'all the percent that I'm at in all the books that I'm reading. So with the Iliad, I'm at 28%. With Why You Sleep, I'm at 82%. Downland Voices, 54%. Greek Mythology at 53%. And Go Tell the Bees That I'm Going, I am at 70%. I think we'll finish the Iliad in next week's vlog, and then While You Sleep, I will probably finish tomorrow over the weekend. So stay tuned to my Bookish social medias, like Goodreads and all that, and I will have reviews up for those books that I don't finish in a vlog. But let's talk about what am I going to read once I finish the Iliad. Which will the focus of next week's vlog be? I don't think there is a legit theme. Yeah, it's just going to be I was going to be reading a classic, but I'm actually going to be reading nonfiction. I'm going to be reading Chesapeake Requiem by Earl Swift. And this, again, is a nonfiction. I'm going to be following along with the audiobook. This is about the Tangier Island community in the Chesapeake Bay. That is one of those communities that is so isolated that, like, the accent is the original British accent. This is in Virginia, mind you, in the United States. And it's so isolated, this community, and can these isolated communities survive in our modern world where these things and the internet all exist? And that is all for the weekly vlog. If you made it through this whole video, leave a rain emoji in the comments below, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!